Track and field fans, you are the best track and field fans in the world, whether you're listening live or via podcast as a Supporters Club member. Thank you for joining us. Day 3 instant reaction show. The 1500s are in the books. Yareg Nuguse has won in 3:34, just like someone predicted before the race. But we're old timers all having Steve Holman flashbacks like me. We'll talk about that. In the women's race, Nikki Hiltz gets their first championship. And I've been complaining about the announcing on this meet. Props to Kara Goucher for getting they and their right the entire damn race from that. But the bigger story may have been Athing Mu getting second. Do we owe an apology to Bobby Krissy and Athing Mu? Because we much doubted the move to the 1500. And then the steeplechases. Emma Coburn, Courtney Wayment make the team, but neither one of them is the winner. Krissy Gear remains undefeated on the year in the steeple. Kicks down Coburn, denies Coburn the 11th title of her career. And then in the men's steeplechase, Kenneth Rooks falls down, gets up, and wins the damn thing. Super impressive. Only the NBC announcers have been talking about him earlier in the race. This is Robert Johnson, joined as always by my genetic equal, Weldon Johnson. We will be joined later in the show by ace staff writer Jonathan Gault, who is boots on the ground in Eugene, getting interviews.
Good to be here, Robert. City McLaughlin Lavroni, 48-74. A great night of track and field. I mean, that men's steeple, what a race. Kenneth Rooks, man, and then he gives a shout-out to Henry Marsh. I mean, I'm too old to really know about Henry Marsh. I love people who know their track and field history. Henry Marsh, BYU legend. Let's see, 9-time U.S. champion, 2-time Olympic trials champion, long-time U.S. record holder. It was just great to see that, and just what a gutsy performance. Nikki Hiltz, gutsy performance. Athing Mu, major props. But, Robert, we have to start, I think, with the men's 1500. That's what people have been talking about the most on Let'sRun.com. I think we go there. Yareg Nuguse, the dude got it done. I was worried with 100 to go, I'll say that much.
Okay,
and
I was going to ask you if that was the case. For those of you that missed the race, it went exactly how planned. Like before the meet started today, I went on Let's Run and I typed up a 1,500-meter recap because sort of inside baseball story here. When we're always at meets, I'll be like 3 hours before the meet starts. And I'm like, John, we need to start our recaps. We're not going to have time to write 5 final recaps when the meet ends. He's like, but we don't know what's going to happen. I'm like, come on, John. If we really think about it, we know what's going to happen. And I wrote a recap off the Yareg Nuguse, took the lead just before 300 and won in 3:34. Well, that's what happened, but it was not exactly how I wrote it up. So he took the lead right around 300. The first 400 today was faster than on the prelim day, Thursday. He goes 58.72. But it was shocking to me. The next lap was only 60.24, 158.96. But the field was like single file almost, or like, too wide. But everyone just bowed down to Nuguse. Like it was going slow and nobody moved up. Nobody was wasting energy. Everybody was just running kind of side by side behind him. And then he did push it down on the third lap, 56.49. He hits 1,200 and 255.45. But Joe Waskom does what he always does, makes a huge move around 250 meters. And just before 200 meters to go, Waskom's in the lead. Cole Hawker and Hobbs Kessler, the two other big names that we thought would contend for the team, were right behind Nuguse. And coming off the final turn, I thought, oh my God, Steve Holman 2.0. I can't believe this is happening. We saw Tier not even make the final. I thought, is Nuguse going to choke this up? And right when I started to get nervous, like he found another gear and just came back, got by Waskom, wins it pretty comfortably, 3:34.90. So another 3:34 race for him. Waskom ends up a much-deserved second and a new PB of 3:35.32. Hawker, a clear third, 3:35.46. Kessler faded. He was right there with Hawker the whole race. He's sixth in 3:36.08. And Sam Prakel does the opposite of what he's done so many times at USA's. He was seventh at 1,200. He moves up to fourth. Henry Wynn Brooksby's fifth. Nathan Green was actually ran a PB for 7th, 3:36.29. That's this year's NCAA champion. And Matthew Shenchowitz of note was 10th, Josh Thompson 11th, Johnny Gregorek 9th, Drew Hunter 8th. Eric Holt, who we profiled, was up there early, ends up dead last. So
Robert, center yourself on the screen. Everybody who's listening to this is the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast. If you want this as a podcast, you got to be a Supporters Club member. Go to Let'sRun.com/subscribe. While you're on here on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, please. We're not very good at promoting ourselves. This is the best podcast in track and field. Hit like, hit subscribe. Do that now. Put on Instagram your stories or tweet out that we're live right now. We'd appreciate that. And we'll be joined by Jonathan Gault, live from Eugene, once he wraps up his interviews, talking to the athletes. You can check out the Let'sRun.com YouTube channel for all the post-race reaction. And, okay, before should we stay in the goose for a second here?
yes.
Because I want to praise Waskom. This guy, I was doubting him this year after NCAA. So I'm like, wow, he's taking a step back this year. And I was completely wrong. Maybe he was thinking a little more big term, a little more long term, and to be ready for this meet, because fabulous performance. But the man of the hour is Yareg Nuguse. And it's just rare you see a guy lead a race that much early on, get past, and then not panic and kick back for the lead. It was just super impressive. I mean, I think, and the crazy thing is, it's almost a championship record time. So, I coming in, I had him ranked as the number 2 1,500-meter runner in the world. I don't want to go there now and start wondering, oh, maybe he's a little vulnerable. I think we just need to appreciate this victory right now. I mean, he was happy. Putting up a picture now of him at the finish. I mean, look at that smile. And I mean, this is a head-on shot. It looks like there's about 20 guys right behind him, which can't be the case. But it was just great running. Here's a shot of the finish. I mean, there's what? 1, 2, 3 guys in 7 meters of him, probably 6 guys within 10 meters. And there's not a lot of room for error in this thing. And as we've noted many times with Jakob Ingebrigtsen, leading it is a hard thing to do. You got to be better than everybody else. And Yared showed he's better than everyone else in the U.S. right now.
It was a fascinating race from a tactical standpoint, in the sense of, I do think what you see sometimes is when you're leading, people go too hard to keep the lead, and then they don't have anything left. He judged his effort pretty well. I mean, I was panicked. Like, he was grimacing to me. I was like, oh my God, he's going backwards. But he had something left in that last 100. And, you don't normally see that, get caught and then pull away. You said you didn't want to go to World Championships. This does make me nervous for Worlds, though. Like, it makes me nervous for Jakob Ingebrigtsen. It makes me nervous for Nuguse. I thought that he would be, I don't know why I thought he would be more dominant than these guys. I guess because I guess, he's more than 2 seconds faster than everybody this year, really 3 seconds faster than everybody in this field coming in. And he still had to make it a challenge. That's why I think Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he's not 3 seconds better than everybody else in the world. So there's going to be a lot of people, there. I wonder if the Worlds will be a similar race, though. People are content just to get in line behind them and see what happens. But, yeah, Waskom was fantastic. Second at NCAAs, second here. Now, he does not have the standard. This is a PB. On the road to Budapest rankings, he's not in the top 56 right now. But I've done the math, and I have good news, people. He's got, he's going to get 1,200. He's got, read the article and Let's Run, but that I've typed up already. He's going to get 1,250 ranking points right now because of this race, 1,170 points for the win for the time, and 80 bonus points for second place. It's the same bonus points actually for getting second in this race as it is USA's. And I think he's got 1162 now. He's going to go to 1188 average for his 5-man 5 race average. That's going to vault him up to like number 52, 56 go. So he's in, I think it'll be actually number 51 if you take one of the Americans that has the standard off. So he'll have like 1,188 points. And right now the 56 guy has like 1,172 points. So looks like he will be going to Worlds. That will be your team, the top 3 from today. So, but great race for him, because we were saying, if you're a shoe exec, well, why would you go with Waskom? Everyone says Nathan Green's more talented. Well, Waskom brought it today, and he's going to Budapest.
Yeah, I was all into the Nathan Green hype train, and I thought he was more talented than Waskom. Waskom showed it with the fast time in the prelim and the final. The balls to take the lead on Nuguse. I mean, this is a whole different level. We've been talking about this each night. You see someone taking up a step in class, trying to taking the lead for Yareg Nuguse. Even if you don't hold it, that's hard to do. There aren't many guys in the world who could do that with 200 to go. So, and he told Lewis Johnson after the race, he's like, well, that's when I like to go, 250 to go. And props to him too for also not sort of tying up, losing it. A lot of guys, once they get recaught, you saw this with people, Sinclair Johnson falling for the finish. I think a lot of those athletes, they tense up. They're like, oh my God, I'm getting past. Well, he had 100 meters still to go. So it could have totally gone south for him. It didn't. I'm very pleased with this team we're sending to the World Championships. I think the over-under for Yareg Nuguse is he has to come home with a medal. Anything else is disappointing. I'm kind of like you. I'm like, oh, this wasn't as dominant as I thought. But like, what did we expect? I think I might have even picked Cole Hawker to beat him in the contest at the last second. I was like, it's very hard to lead this thing. Being the hunted is very hard because Cole Hawker is a very good runner. Joe Waskom, obviously, I don't think he's at the Cole Hawker ceiling yet, but man, I was just very impressed. And I think Cole Hawker can be very happy. The goal is to go the minimum standard of this meet. And really, the sort of all that really matters at the end of the day is you go to the World Championships. And he did that. Whereas Hobbs Kessler, 6th place, I think he's probably the most disappointing guy right now. So much promise for him. I mean, he's still only 20 years old, but I think this one's going to hurt. There was the performances this year, the fast times. This is his first time. He went into nationals thinking, well, I've got a really good shot. And goes home in 6th place. I mean, he competed well. He put himself up there, but definitely not what he wanted.
But no excuses. But really, no one in this race has an excuse. There wasn't much tactically to talk about. But I think, and let's see if they've updated the database on Telestoppaja that I pay for. But I was wondering, after NCAAs, is Hobbs Kessler the best 20-year-old in America? Because I'm assuming Nathan Green might be 20 as well. Yep, Nathan Green is younger than – that's right. He's 20 years, 90 days. Kessler does win top 20-year-old bragging rights. He beats Nathan Green by 1 spot, 336.08 to 336.29. And, I think that the future for those guys is bright, but it's going to be crazy in the years to come. And that's what makes it so good. We need to get rid of these damn buys, and we need to have drama. I mean, I guess it makes the world's worse if some big star doesn't make it, but we need track and field needs more meets that matter and more super talented people, competing. So Kessler and Green will be trying to make that team next year. What will Cooper Tier be doing? Another name we need to bring up here is Matthew Centrowitz. I mean, you really need to be a grade A talent, I think, to make this team next year in the Olympics. Centrowitz is clearly a grade A talent. He finishes 10th today, 337.23. But if I'm him, he said it was all about 2024 anyways. He's 1.8 seconds off. Can he do that in a year? If he stays healthy, I'm certainly not discounting him. So if we can get him into the mix for next year, it would be crazy. One other tidbit here. Well, do you remember who finished second at NCAA's Outdoors last year?
I'm going to go down this list here and look at it.
He's not in this race today.
I'm about to say it's none of these guys. No, I don't.
Mario Garcia Romo,
Oh,
and he ended up fourth at Worlds. So I'm not saying Waskom can medal. Actually, though, I think there's so many guys. That's what's going to be fascinating in Worlds. Like, I feel like everyone who makes that final probably thinks some scenario where they can medal. Because, I guess if Nuguse is number 3, he's a step above these guys. I really think that actually, imagine if it wasn't a race with Yared making it super fast. And we're assuming this is definitely going to be under 3:32. But going to be a fascinating Worlds. Can't wait.
One more name. It's weird how you can watch these races and there's just so many names. And this guy used to be, the sort of Hobbs Kessler of his generation. People were putting so much expectations on him. Drew Hunter, 8th place. I never thought of him once during the race. I didn't expect him to do anything, but I think for him, honestly, making this final and getting 8th, it was that's more than I expected from him.
Definitely. I don't think anything can replace the college experience, being on a team. It's magical. College cross country, your boys. But I think he and Kessler have both shown why you have to take the money. When you offer the obscene amounts of money, and I hate the Adidas philosophy of just give millions to like every high schooler and see if they'll go pro with you. They signed another one today, Will Sumner, by the way. But you got to take the money. If you're worried about finances, I guess you don't have to do anything, but it's like a smart call because who'd you give the money to now? Kessler or Green? Kessler's got some sick 3,000 PBs. They're both probably worthy of it, but it's super competitive right now. But I think it's a good experience for him to get more tactical experience. If I'm him, he needs to have a big European season. Try to find some races where they're not rabbited. I don't know if there's a Pan Ams or anything. Probably didn't qualify, I guess. But
putting up a comment here by Lieutenant. Oh, I can't repeat the name because it's clearly not his real name. We've been saying Jakob. Everyone's been saying Jakob for the longest time. But Robert, one thing we didn't talk about this. Narv Nordas, who used to train with Jakob and is coached by his dad, referred to him as Jacob. So as the U.S. Western world and getting his name wrong for the longest time, like we think, it has to be Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Can we text him and find out? All right. I think that's it for the men's 1500. Let's move to the women's 1500, which actually was first, right, in terms of this race. And when it was over, I was stunned that the winning time was 4:03, which I guess when the world record is 3. Are we in the 349s now? Yeah, 349.
Yes,
so
we're
we're over 13 seconds off the world record. But 4:03 for U.S. championships isn't terrible because everybody was in this race. It goes out 66, another 66, and then it's 67. So we're 319 at 1200, and it was kind of interesting. The people up front early on, nobody wanted to lead. This reminded me of your classic men's 1500 back in the day, where everyone thinks they have a kick, because the only people up front were like the inexperienced runners and Addy Wiley, the freshman from Huntington, and Athing Mu, the 800-meter Olympic and world champion. And then it just became like a mad dash over the final 300, and proving the point that it's not who is the fastest that wins, because Athing Mu was a 49-second 400-meter runner. Nikki Hiltz, who I guess I should say identifies as non-binary in case I get her gender wrong. Although I don't know why I can't just refer to she as her sex, her biological sex. Anyways, Hiltz gets the win.
You just got it wrong, Robert. She goes by the they-them pronouns for people not knowing. She's a biological female. Some people don't realize that, Robert. They're so confused by the they-them. They think maybe Nikki identifies as transgender. They think she's biologically not female. She's a biological female. She just has a different gender identity.
Yeah,
they has a different gender identity. And
Hiltz has been running great. I mean, Hiltz. I'll just keep saying Hiltz. I don't know how Kara can keep saying they, but I expect her to make the team. She does, and she wins in 4:03.1. So Hiltz had made a team a couple years ago, and then had a coaching change, lost her sponsorship. Now Hiltz is with Lululemon. Good for her. I mean, Hiltz has been running great, deserves to win 4:03.10. shocking to me that Athing Mu was 403.44. Like, I coached a lot of middle distance runners in my 10 years at Cornell. When I heard Bobby Kersey saying Athing Mu, we might double her up. She could go 8 in the 15 at the Olympics. I was like, no chance. She's got a much better chance of medaling in the 400 than the 1500. We've never seen someone be world class at the 400 and the 1500. He doesn't understand running. And then right when this race ended, I immediately went to the message board and said, do we owe Bobby Kersey and Athing Mu an apology? Because I guess I thought maybe we debated this. Maybe could she make a U.S. team? And I was kind of leaning towards no. Clearly, she did today make the team if she wants to run the 1500. But it was super impressive. I mean, huge PB for her, 43.93. I mean, it was probably the perfect race for her because, they were on, they're 319. So if they run another 48, if they just kept that pace up, if they run an even pace, they would have run 407. Is that right? No.
Yeah, 407. That's sort of the pace they were on. I agree. If you're going to draw up a way for Athing Mu to be super competitive in this race coming in, I would have said, how can she be up there? I'm like, you want it relatively slow, but she still far exceeded our expectations. I wish we put on paper what I thought she could run. I don't know what I thought coming in. I mean, at Millrose, I think she was on pace for about last year, a 424 mile. So, I mean, this vastly exceeds that. But in my mind, when she was talking about the 1500, I'm like, could she be a sub 4 1500 meter runner? I think I swear I would have said possibly yes. There's still a long way from being that and being a contender for a medal. But I don't know. Coming in, I thought Sinclair Johnson was running really well. Nikki Hiltz has taken things to another level. Corey McGee has run equivalent to about 358 this year. I mean, so Hiltz was right there in that mile as well. So essentially, Hiltz and McGee are sub 4 minute runners this year, even though Hiltz's PR is 401. It was just a great run by Athing Mu. And the thing I also posted before the start, Robert, the thing I was most impressed with was she started this race. She deserves credit for going to the line. I thought for sure all these stars show up, they run round of something else, get your feet wet. If she just wanted to train for the 800, I would have been fine. Bobby, I thought the 1500 meter round would have helped her. Instead, she toes the line for the final and gets second place. This was amazing. I mean, a great run. And I think the endurance 100% will help her for the 800. She's not running the 1500 at Worlds. So Sinclair Johnson is on your team. But this was great. It's going to help her, I think, in the 800. And she's my favorite now for the 800 at the Worlds. I mean, maybe she never should have fallen off that list. But when Keely Hodgkinson debuts in 155 outdoors, and we haven't seen Athing Mu, there's a lot of question marks about her having a middle distance coach. I mean, a sprint coach who's never coached legit middle distance runners. And then especially after what her boyfriend, did yesterday, not looking good, not making the 800 final, coached by Bobby Kersey as well. This was just tremendous. And she's 21 years old. We're heaping praise on Addy Wiley for being 19. Well, Athing Mu's in her off event and just surprised me big time.
It's interesting, we act like 403 slow, but it's really not that slow for a USA's. It's pretty standard. 403.29 winning time last year, 358.03 meet record 2021, 403 in 2019, 405 in 2018, 406 in 2017, 404 in 2016. So we should go back and look at some of those 403 races and see what the final close was. But somebody on the chat was saying that Athing Mu could be the second person to ever break 50 in the quarter. But I don't know who's done this. Second person in history to break 50 in the quarter, 2 minutes in the 8, and 4 minutes in the 1500. Who else has ever done that? Probably some doped up Eastern European, right? If you know the answer to that.
People are asking in the chat, will Athing double at Worlds? The answer is going to be no. I will double check the schedule. We can pull that up, but I'm almost certain she's just going to run the 8. I mean, even the way she answered the question to Lewis Johnson,
But when Jonathan Gault comes
Um,
on later, we can ask him. I'm sure he talked to her. Oh, Caster Semenya's done it.
so
But all right.
one more thing on Nikki Hiltz. Nikkie's made, world's teams before. Nikki won indoors this year, but Nikkie's running is at another level this year. Moving to Flagstaff, being coached by Mike Smith, the altitude, that sort of stuff, it's paying off big time.
I didn't even know she's
They're at a
coached by
different
Mike
level.
Smith. Excuse me.
What?
He's being coached. I didn't know Hiltz was being coached by Mike Smith. Like this meet is just Mike Smith's stock is going up. I like to bag on him a little bit. I'm tired of NAU winning in cross country. I just want someone to beat them. And he inherited a national title team, but he's done a fabulous job. And Smith, I mean, you got to say Smith has had a KO in the meet so far compared to Jerry Schumacher on the Bowerman Track Club. But it was a tight battle for that third spot. McGee 403.48. I love my namesake, Sinclair Johnson, diving at the ground or falling over. 403.49. And I think we saw this with Hawker and Sinclair. Like when you miss a lot of time, I think you can run some good races, but ultimately running is an endurance sport, I guess. And like, can they really be? Can you expect someone who's missed a significant amount of time to be at their best? I guess 1 year, well, then you ran your PB at USA's when you didn't have a good build-up, but you had years of running behind you. It's just Sinclair. Disappointing to me that she was not able to beat Athing Mu, in this race. Like, let's be honest, Athing Mu knows she's not competitive. Like the top 2 or 3 women. Well, I say this, but some of these women, a lot of the top 1,500 meter runner women in the world are also going for the 5 this year, and some of them might just go to the 10. So, Sergey, Kipyegon, these women can medal. Hassan, they good. You're not touching any of those women if they run the 1,500. But how many of them will actually end up in the 1,500?
Okay, a couple other things. I got a picture here up on the screen of Sinclair Johnson diving to the track. You said you were impressed with it. I wasn't at all. I think she tightened up and panicked. I think that's what happened.
Well, I was impressed that she wanted it. She ran herself to exhaustion.
I think it was more of a mental thing. She got there. I think she had it. And then sometimes you miss, she took like a stumble, like, I don't know, like 6 meters out. I think she would have had Corey McGee possibly at the finish. And then that cost her. But it's hard to tell because, the camera angle isn't perfectly on them. But this was more of I think, tie up, stumble, fall. I guess once you're at that point, you might as well dive for the finish. But I didn't view it as like, oh, she was just right there and dove. It was more like, oh shit, I'm falling. I might as well dive. I'm glad she's going to get another shot at the, being on the U.S. team. And the other thing, Robert, I was thinking about Sinclair is like, okay, she missed some time. She comes at this from more of a speed thing. The rounds are probably harder for her, especially for the missed time. But all of that applies to Athing Mu. She's not a 1,500 meter runner. She came back with a round and looked great at this. I mean, it's not like she was going up against Faith Kipyegon, but the U.S. women right now are sort of like that, I don't know, the tier outside of the medalist. She more than held her own. There's a comment here in the chat by JGT11. I was watching a live stream of some sprinters and had explained that the 1,500 meter world record was 3:49, not 3:59. They thought Mu could take Faith Kipyegon. But, I mean, that's the cool thing, though. Like, that just Athing Mu challenged herself like this, did this. I think the world level is a whole nother level right now, but she proved us wrong once, so fool me once. I think this story might be continued. I still think the 400 is her best chance for a double, but entertaining.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the 400 is what she should do, but I think this will help her for the 8. Dominant favorite now for me in the World Championship 800. Props to her, props to Krissy, and the most props just for racing. Like in Millrose, she had a problem with losing. She didn't really want to talk about it. It's okay to lose. It's okay to get beat, and I think, I've been very critical of the announcing at this meet, but one thing that the main play-by-play guy said, he's like, Bobby Krissy really likes to challenge the athletes. And I thought this was great for it. If you look at Worlds last year, Kip Yeager on 352, running away with it. Sergey 354, Muir 355. I mean, then they were 6 seconds up. There was a 6-second gap between third and fourth. Feiwani Hailu 401, which is also what Sinclair Johnson ran for 6. So, you're going to have like those three Ethiopians that are quite good, probably better than Sinclair. But you don't know if Sagai is going to do it. Muir's not in the same type of shape with the coaching change. I mean, there's just sometimes in running, particularly on the women's side, there's like one or two women that are just like a standard deviation better than everybody else. And I actually saw that in this race today. I was like, the first lap was like 64. I forgot who had it. And the women didn't even go with it. I'm like, can you imagine if like the men go out in 332 pace and nobody goes with it? Somebody would just go with it just to go up there, I think. But fun race. One thing, I don't know what happened to Danny Jones, former NCAA champion, DNF. I didn't see her fall. But New Balance Boston, normally they put someone on the team. They didn't today, with Heather McLean only 7th, Emily Mackay 8th. And, Heather McLean, I think, is going to end up having a season like she did last year. She got a late start, didn't race till June, didn't make the team, ran 358. I think when we get to Worlds, well, Hiltz is doing pretty damn good right now. It would not shock me at all if Heather McLean is the top American at the end of the year, but she will not be on this team when we get to Budapest.
Yeah, I think McLean's got to be probably the most disappointed person in this final right now. I think there's bigger expectations for her. I mean, Emily Mackay, her training partner, she's new to this. Addy Wiley is 19. So she challenged. I'll give Addy credit. She challenged Athing Mu for the lead. And it's sort of amazing. I think a couple things about Athing Mu. She still bossed this race from the front. It was like the 800. Like, she never gives up the lead. Once she took the lead, she was leading the second pack. And then once Lori Barton, who led the first lap, slowed down the second lap, Athing led pretty much the entire way to the final straight. And nobody would go around her. The pace wasn't that fast, but they tried a couple times, and she kept the lead. But this was noted in the comments, Robert. She was doing the same damn thing, running on the outside of lane 1. She's running more distance than everybody else. How much faster could she have run if she ran on the inside of lane 1? And Corey McGee, a faster runner would have passed Athing Mu. Corey McGee had the space, pushed up. I think Athing Mu had essentially ceded the spot to her. And I guess also, this has happened before. Let's rewind. Last year, World Championships, Keeley comes up on the inside. So she just needs to be careful with that. Like I know she's has a big leg kick and tall, so I think somehow she doesn't, for some reason, she likes to be outside of lane 1. But I don't know, if Bobby needs to work on one thing, I think maybe that's it.
Yeah, but in the comments, Bakazil is saying Bobby's right. Sydney's probably much faster in the 400. She's probably faster than Mo, but there aren't a lot of women. There aren't like 5 or 6 women like 8 seconds faster. There's like one woman, Sydney, who's faster than Shani Miller Weibo. Like with Mo, like Mo's only the second best American. We don't even have all of our people on the top of their game in this race today. So, anyways, it was a good race for Addy Wiley. She's got some tactical acumen. Seth Lewis wants to know, will she turn pro? Should she going back to the NIA? I think Jonathan Gault finally talked to her today. I mean, she's a big talent. To be honest, this Huntington scandal, in my mind, would be a huge red flag for me if I was a shoe exec. If I was a shoe exec, there's no chance I would sign her for a deal unless I said, you're leaving your current setup. Whoever is coaching you is no longer coaching you. You're going to join one of our teams. And that might be hard for her. She's a small town Indiana girl. But, if you don't know the backstory, she's greatly values Lauren Johnson, who made the 2015 Worlds team, helped pace her to the high school 1,600-meter record, was her coach for a brief period at Huntington. And, Lauren's husband, Nick, who was the assistant coach at the Oregon Track Club, has been convicted of a felony. And I was sent today some documents that have I mean, Lauren Johnson said Nick had possession of EPO, not possession, had a prescription for EPO and testosterone, both. So, Salazar, we know, used to walk around with banned drugs. That doesn't mean that Galen Rupp did it, but it makes you wonder. And, I think that you don't want to be associating with these type of people. Mo Farah got rid of Salazar when that happened. And, it would just make me very nervous. There's nothing for her to do at the NAIA level. She's going to go pro, but it'll be interesting to see what take he does. And if she really loves Lauren Johnson, then let Lauren coach you, but just be honest about it and be open about it. Like, do we really think that the person that she said is coaching her at Huntington? I mean, he may be technically the coach, but the head coach there, who she cited, is like a jumps throws coach. So we really think that he just coached her to run a 404 without any input from anybody else? That to me seems, anything's possible, I guess.
I mean, she's a huge talent. The NAIA does nothing for her. Nothing. I mean, even the NCAA level doesn't really offer anything right now. She's way faster than Caitlin Toohey. I mean, Caitlin Toohey fans
for 1,500.
don't want to hear that. Yeah, 1,500. So, I mean, I guess she can work on the 5K and try to race if Caitlin isn't going back, I don't think. But I guess if she's trying to improve her 5K and stuff, she could do it. As you said, Robert, like, she's close to Lauren Johnson. Oh, and the Nick Johnson thing. I mean, he's got these legal issues, being accused of sexual assault. He's already pleaded guilty to one felony, but that's unrelated to the running stuff. But the running stuff is like, this is the husband of her former coach and pacer, and he is accused by other Huntington athletes of giving them EPO, right? Like, that's out there as well. So he's what?
Was it EPO? Well, he's admitted to injecting them with what he said was
of injection. So I'm sorry, but he's been accused of. They think they were given performance-enhancing drugs. I guess maybe I should say it like that. So I want to correct the record there. But now there's been, he's admitted to having EPO or a prescription for EPO. There's just a lot there, and I don't know. I guess in some ways I do reward loyalty. Like, Addy came of age. Lauren helped her be a great coach, and she told Jonathan in the post-race today that like, Lauren Johnson was at the meet sitting with her mom. So clearly she's very close to Lauren Johnson. So I think she will go pro. It'll be just interesting to see how it's done. And right on cue, Jonathan Gault joining us from the track in Eugene. Jonathan Gault, the ace staff writer of Let'sRun.com. If you're just joining us, this is the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast. If you want this as a podcast, this is a bonus podcast. We have a weekly podcast. But our supporters club members, this is the best club in running. You get a second podcast every week if you join. Go to Let'sRun.com/subscribe. Use code CLUB25 to save 25%. You join for a year, you get a free t-shirt. You can save 20% on running shoes. This thing pretty much pays for itself. And you get a second podcast every week. Daily podcasts from USA's Daily Podcasts from Worlds. Also, hit like, hit subscribe as we're talking. John, we were talking about Addy Wiley and how she said, Lauren, just how she's close. Will she go pro? And how Robert was saying, essentially, I think she should go pro. But if I was a pro company, I'd say you have to disassociate from the Johnsons. But I was saying, you told us that, she's very close to that family. Lauren Johnson was attendant sitting with her mom. So maybe some pro company will take a bet on her and say, you can work with Lauren. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, she's remarkably talented, Weldon, and ran a great race today. She said her plan is to return to Huntington in the fall. But I agree with you. Like, she says that Lauren Johnson she said she had no impact on her coaching, but I think we all find that fairly hard to believe given that the families are still close. She was spotted running with Lauren Johnson earlier today. So if I agree, I think it's a pretty ugly situation as we've detailed in the past with some of the with some of the fallout that happened in the fall of that program. If I were pulling the purse strings at a shoe company, I would say, yeah, you have to get out of there and we'll find a better situation for you, because I think it has the potential to end ugly. That'd be my thoughts.
All right, John, we've talked about the men's 1500. We've talked about the women's 1500, but I think we've done this both nights when you joined us. Overall impressions of the night and any like big takeaways you learned from the mix zone, and then we can kind of continue on with the steeplechase.
Yeah, I would say overall impressions, the 1500 proved once again why there's very few things in sports are better than championship 1500 finals, right? The unpredictability. I mean, Athing Mu was battling it out for the national title. We all thought, oh, if she makes the final, that's a good job. She won't contend for the team, but they all let her hang around. It wasn't even that slow. I mean, 4:03 isn't really that slow a winning time, but she's there. I'm like, holy crap. Athing Mu, 49-second 400 runner, could win the U.S. title. And then Nikki Hiltz comes by, who I don't think we had winning. Sinclair Johnson's only fourth. Then on the men's side, same thing. It was incredibly exciting. Joe Waskom just pulled out two enormous balls on the table with 250 to go. He basically made the same move he did to win NCAAs on this track last year. That was awesome. And then Yareg Nuguse showing the heart of a champion to battle back and win it. I mean, those two races were phenomenal. Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni does what she does at championships, comes out, almost breaks the American record. She was brilliant. But I don't know, maybe the most insane moment of the meet was Kenneth Rooks falling 2 laps into the steeplechase, getting up, running a personal best, and winning the U.S. title. I mean, I talked to his coach, Ed Eyestone, after the race, and we were just trying to say, like, when is the last time someone at this level fell in a race, lost as much ground as Rooks did, and won it? Because Ed was racking his brain. He's like, this doesn't happen at this level. Not when you're this good. I remember 2019, Stephen Fahey fell in the steeple and won the NCAA title. Sometimes you will see someone fall in the final barrier, but when they're that early in the race, I thought that was phenomenal. That's one of the moments of the beat for sure.
Yeah, putting some screenshots up here. It was amazing. And let's go there. I mean, you can drop in some impressions for some of the athletes right afterwards. But men's steeplechase, this was last, right? This was the final distance event of the night. And yeah, what is that, John? This on the third lap there, second lap?
It was just after 800 meters, yeah.
Yeah. Rooks goes down and gets way behind. And you're thinking kind of, wow, that sucks.
Eyestone thought it was done. I talked to him. He's like, I saw that. I was like, well, there it goes. You know, better think about next year. He didn't think he had a chance.
It'd be interesting to see, how much time he lost. I guess we can kind of look at the splits here. So, like at 1200, I'm sure by then he's already sort of sprinting to catch up. He's 3:25.6. That's sort of crazy, though, John. He only loses 3 seconds. So if you think of it like that, it's not that crazy. But
you got to navigate the traffic as well. Like he was even on the last lap, he was only fifth or something. And Mason Furlick, you got to feel for him too. He's leading this thing on the final turn, and he doesn't even make the team. I mean, it was a fantastic final lap.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Like, here's a picture of Furlick in the lead. I mean, yeah, essentially the final 200. It's Furlick, and Keeter and Isaac Update and Kenneth Rooks battling it out. And at the end, it's Rooks first, Bernard Keeter, who's made the last 2 teams for Nike, U.S. Army, second, and Isaac Update, Under Armour Dark Sky, getting third. But wow. I mean, I think coming in, Duncan Hamilton was the other collegian. He signed with, Rooks has collegiate eligibility left, right? Which is crazy. But I assume that's over now. I assume he's turning pro. But Hamilton, signed with the Bowerman Track Club. And after seeing this, I'm like, wow, Rooks is just another level. To fall like that and come back and do it, amazing.
But after seeing this, did you watch NCAAs? He blew Hamilton away there too. So
yeah, we thought they were
Bowerman,
pretty.
I'm like, can I send my money back and get Rooks? But we do get a props to Supporters Club member Dan Mikowski. I was texting him before the race, and he got a lot of TV time. I was like, man, we should have been sponsoring him. He was up front for like the first five laps or so. Ends up far back. But is this the first U.S. team, John, for anybody from Under Armour? I think we've had somebody before.
I didn't Rachel Smith now. I think she may have been Under Armour when she made the Olympic team in 2021.
Just got to represent the Baltimore company. That's all I'm saying. But Anthony Rotich, my boy, does not make it 8:22:38 for fifth. John, one thing about Addy Wiley, because I'm kind of obsessed with the story. So she runs with Lauren Johnson. She admits to, or I don't know if she admitted that to you, but like
she was asked about that and kind of deflected it. But
so why would she be coaching her? Why don't we think the Johnsons are giving the coach the workouts to these Huntington people? Not that there's nothing wrong. Well, Nick Johnson is banned from the sport, so he can't coach her, but he can tell Lauren what to coach her, and then Lauren can give her the workouts.
I do think I asked her why she stuck around at Huntington, because she said, being able to be with Lauren Johnson when she decommitted from Colorado, she said that was one of the reasons she chose it. But then she said, no, there's other things I like about it. It's close to home. They have resources. Her thing was like, they let me, run in all these pro meets. Like I can go to these if I was in an NCAA school, should be having to adhere to their schedule. So that was her explanation. But no, I think, Robert, she probably is being coached by Lauren Johnson. And again, Lauren's not banned, but she was removed from her position at Huntington. And I think it's probably an uncomfortable topic for her to discuss. But I mean, Addy did answer every question I asked her in the mix zone.
I mean, she's legally an adult, but she's still a 19-year-old kid. I mean, when you're this, these coaches have been coaching you since freshman year of high school. I think she discovered them. Same town, and you're this good, and then they go through all this shit. It's easy to say, oh, you'd handle it differently, but the talent's undeniable.
All right, women's steeple.
Wait.
Let's go there.
Women's one more thing on Rooks. Someone's asking, I said he was 3 seconds back. He was 3 seconds back after another 400 meters. So he might have been 40 meters back right away. That's probably 5 seconds. He makes up 2 of it on that first lap. So that's sort of how that happened.
Oh, and one thing about Rooks, Ed Eyestone told me he thinks he's in sub 8:10 shape. And after seeing him run 8:16 with a full, I tend to agree. So to be that good at 22 or 23, I mean, big potential in the future for that guy.
23. I won't make any jokes, John. All right.
23 is for a BYU kid. That's young. That's pretty young, right?
That's what the school's name, right? All right, women's steeplechase. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. Krissy Gear has halted Emma Coburn's streak of 8 straight U.S. titles, 10 in a row, never having lost a U.S. championship. Who would have predicted that Krissy Gear, and I believe the 3rd steeplechase of her life?
No.
She ran the steeple in college. I mean, it wasn't her primary event at NCAA's, but she was like an SEC champion.
Okay. 3rd steeplechase of the year, right?
No, 2nd steeplechase of the year.
Well, she ran the prelim. I'm giving her credit for that. Okay. Did she ever run the steeple at NCAAs then? I mean,
no. So her best claim to fame.
No, she ran it 2018. She ran it NCAA's in the steeple. But her best accomplishments were in the mile. Yeah, she kicked down Emma Coburn. She did something no one has done ever at USA's, which is run away from Emma Coburn off the final barrier. And the way this race played out, Courtney Wayman led a bunch of it. Emma Coburn made her patented move with a couple laps to go and tried to string it out and tried to break everyone and looked like it might have been working, but she didn't put enough of a gap on Krissy Gear, who came from, I mean, you can see the picture here, fair amount behind, and outkicked her. And I didn't get a chance to talk to Gear, but I talked to Coburn, and she was well aware of how good Krissy Gear was. She was paying attention. She knew she's got some wheels. She was, NCAA runner-up in the mile. She'd been running pretty well this year. She was 3rd in the 1500 at USA Indoors. And she said, my strategy was the same. It was the same strategy Emma always uses, but she was like, yeah, I kind of knew I wanted to gap Gear. She was the one she was keying off of and knew that she was going to be around. And she did gap her, but not by enough. And Krissy wins it. First U.S. track title for NAZ Elite as well. So big win for them. And yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, pretty crazy to see that final 100 her pulling away. I would also say in the men's steeple, Kenneth Rooks may have gotten the biggest roar of the night, even more than Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni in the 400, because I was doing an interview in the mix zone and people were going nuts, and I couldn't figure out. I'm like, what could have happened in the men's steeple to engender such a roar? It's not like one of the marquee events. Well, when you fall and get up and win, that's what happens. But yeah, back to gear. What do you guys make of it?
I thought it was amazing, John. I mean, she was like, okay, with we got weird splits. They're giving this. I wish they were giving the splits at the finish, but I mean, I put it up on the screen with 2 laps to go. She was just way back there. I mean, she was content to, I think, I don't know, maybe she judged it a little better. Marissa Howard, with 2 to go, Krissy Gear, Emma Coburn, and Marissa Howard are sort of clear. And then there's a decent gap back to Krissy. And then looks like it was 600 to go. I mean, by then she started closing it down to get, it was, 1.8 seconds. And she was shocked, John. I mean, her reaction at the finish, there was like no smile, no nothing. It was just sort of like, oh my God, what the hell just happened to me? And then when she was interviewed, she then later sort of cracked a smile and kind of said like, yeah, I'm a bit surprised this happened. But
well then one thing David Monty told me, he did talk to her, and we've got an interview coming up. Dave Ross has an interview for Let's Run that will be uploaded. But David said, when she was hurdling on that final barrier and passing Emma, Krissy said for a second she felt bad for passing her. She was like, and then she's like, wait a minute, what the hell am I thinking? I can win this race. Like, I shouldn't feel bad about it. So yeah, pretty epic for her in her first year as a pro to win the national title.
No one asked for my opinion. She's like the Woody Kincaid of the steeple. Like, once I realized she was coming off, I didn't know. I'm like, she's going to win this. She's a miler. I guess Coburn's pretty damn good at the mile too, but watch out. Great for NAZ Elite and Hoka and Alan Culpepper. But did one of you guys text me that Alan Culpepper is leaving the team, or is this just a made-up rumor?
That's the rumor, and I reached out to Ben Rosario, the NAZ executive director. He said they're focused on USAs right now, and he'd be happy to talk about it afterwards. I think the strong indications are that job will be coming open once USAs are over.
All right. Honey, my wife's asleep. Should I don't know if she wants to live in Flagstaff. Wait, so where's the rumor that he's going?
It's been on the message board for weeks.
Yeah. And Robert,
I haven't read it.
Don't have your mic hit your shirt, please, Robert. Take your mic off your shirt, please. But
I'll hold it up. I'm on an iPhone mic. Because my 2 $1,500 computers are both in the shop.
You don't really get a lot of sympathy here.
Can someone tell me where he's going?
Robert, we'll find out on Monday. But
well, the whole point of the show and having people there is to get the scuttlebutt. I always say this is like what you would talk about at a bar in Eugene. I'm not in a bar. John's probably heard some things. Is he being dismissed? Does he have another opportunity? What is the rumor here?
What I've
weird
heard,
that you take a job for 1 year and then leave.
The scuttlebutt I heard, and this is just a rumor, it's not confirmed, but it sounded like he was interested in trying to move the team to Boulder, which is where he had been based for a while. And I don't think NAZ Elite's pretty committed to Flagstaff. They just built a new performance facility, and I think that was a source of tension. And I believe that's why he's leaving. But again, we need to, I'll wait to hear exactly from NAZ Elite, but that's the scuttlebutt I've heard.
Well, good for him. He's
okay.
got a family. He's living remotely from them. Good for him. I mean, he wants to go home. Okay. That's a good excuse.
But he took a job at something called NAZ Elite, Northern Arizona Elite, which is in a better, I guess I can't claim to be the godfather of Flagstaff running, but I don't know what you want to call me, but when I was in Flagstaff in 2000, there was like 4 people training there. Anyway, it's a better place to train than Boulder. No matter what the OAC is doing, it's a better place to train than Boulder. But yeah, I totally see 100% why Culpepper, for family reasons, wants to go back to Boulder, but trying to move the team doesn't make sense. But great for him. It's a big win for the team to see that. Like, I think we need to spread some love around. You know, Under Armour, Isaac Updike makes the team. Winning the national title. And they had some great success, you know, with their marathoners and stuff. So it's sort of, I mean, they've won a marathon trials. But one question here, guys, from All in the Game, more on the steeplechase. One, you know, has Father Time caught up with Emma Coburn? I think the answer now is a definite yes. I've been excusing her performances, kind of hoping she can regain it. I'm still holding out hope for Evan Jager. But it's just delusional. She's not the runner she once was. But All in the Game also has a comment here. The others seem really happy that she beat Coburn, who didn't get a lot of love from them. I didn't see that, John. I think he's reading too much into this.
I didn't ask specifically about this, but my understanding is Emma Coburn has a pretty good reputation in the sport. I would have been surprised if there was distaste for her.
Well, yeah,
I thought the opposite.
Yeah.
I thought Wayman was like, it's just an honor to be with these other women. Wayman was so complimentary.
But Weldon, I think I have to agree. Coburn is 32 now, and she's been at the top of the sport for about a decade. It's hard to stay at that level for a really long time. And we've seen, you know, usually you could count on a low 9-minute clocking from her at some point, usually in one of the championships. She hasn't delivered the last 2 global championships. I don't know back then if it was just because she was getting older. I think there might have been other things at play, but yeah, she, you know, getting beat by Krissy Gear at USA's, her Diamond Leagues haven't gone that well, though she has fallen. I'm never going to totally count out someone that good. Like, I think she's pretty smart, and if there's a way to get herself into low 9-minute shape for the World Championship final, she's going to find it, but there just might not be a way.
I might expect her to make the final, but whether she does anything is a different issue. I guess one thing we haven't, well, let's stay in the women, then we'll go to some of these questions on the men.
Wait, speaking of steeplechase, this is the first time I think in 23 years of Let's Run, I got full results from the Kenyan trials today. I texted them to you, John. I can't use my phone to look them up because I'm using my phone for this, but Beatrice Chepkoech, world record holder, ran pretty damn fast at altitude. I know the Kenyans are pretty good at altitude, but wasn't it like 9:10?
I think it was around there. Yeah. She won the Diamond League race a few weeks ago. So
but that was only like 9:07 and didn't impress me.
Yeah, she's having a comeback here. But the way Coburn assessed it was like, you know, we don't have Gerudo anymore, who was doping. She thinks it's going to be back to in the low 9 minutes. It's going to be the winning time at Worlds, and that gave her confidence. She thinks she can still get there. I'm not sure. She said basically like, yeah, you know, getting into low 9-minute shape. Well, part of that plan was winning USA's, and she didn't deliver on that. Chepkoech, 9:09 at altitude, and she won that race by 5 seconds. So good run for her at the Kenyan trials.
One name we haven't mentioned, Courtney Frericks, who, of course, I picked to make this team. I did my picks like 10 minutes before the race started. Didn't even toe the line. DNS. John, I believe you texted her agent, Tom Ratcliffe, and she said she got hurt in the fall.
Yeah, ankle injury in the fall, and that's why she didn't end up running. Today was not a good day for the Bowerman Track Club, between her not running in the final, Hamilton struggling, Josh Thompson not really being competitive in the men's 1500, and then, you know, there's no Jager. Not their finest hour, I would say.
Yeah. I was about to give him credit for Sinclair Johnson. At least she made the team, but no, that's Union Athletics Club. So,
wait a minute. I didn't even realize this. I'm only finding this out now, looking at the results. Eric Holt, did we jinx him by giving him this big preview and hyping him up? He had such a great season, and he finished last in the 1500. I mean, that's tough for that guy.
Yeah, I think intern Alex. I saw intern Alex posting on the boards. He's on a little vacation in Europe right now. See if he dares to come back to the country now. I mean, Eric Holt had dreams. Great profile, great Strava workouts. John, it's really the curse of the Strava workouts.
Yeah.
Once you post your Strava workouts, you're screwed.
What
real quickly, John, on the steeplechase qualifying times for the men, no one has the standard. What do we think the status is of these guys? I mean, I think Rooks can go get it tomorrow.
The top 3 are all in the world rankings quota. I don't think they'll have an issue. I mean, Isaac Updike's 21st, Kenneth Rooks is 27th, and Bernard Keita's 40th. Keita maybe towards the bottom of it, but the first 2 are clearly in there, and their rankings are going to go up after their time in USA's, and they're going to get bonus points for it. I think all of them are safely through to Budapest.
Can these dumb announcers stop talking about the standard when they should just not even mention the word standard if someone's already got the ranking points?
I mean, people need to readjust to this reality, Robert. The reason World Athletics keeps making these standards harder is because they want the rankings to factor more into it. But you have to realize USATF accepts this. The rankings are as good as the standard. So people need to stop panicking as much. There are situations where it can get messy, like we're seeing the 10K. The steeple is not one of them.
What were y'all just talking about before that? I had a brilliant point, but Weldon keeps interrupting me.
I was talking about Eric Holt and then intern Alex being on vacation.
You know, back in the day, I was known for not having a filter. In old age, I've developed a filter, but I'm going to unrelease it right now. When I turned on like the New York City Grand Prix, and I looked up, and Eric Holt was like making his move in the 1500. I was like, that it looks like the worst runner I've ever seen at an elite level. And then I looked at the splits, and they're actually impressive. And then I found out that the intern wanted to do a profile. I thought it was a cool story. But what do I always say? Our motto is where your dreams become reality, but they don't often normally become reality. Weldon almost made a team. Holt was 4th last year. He almost made a team. And it drove me nuts. And the whole reason why we started Let's Run was, even though Weldon was 4th at USA's, well, I guess he wasn't 4th when we started Let's Run, because he was 4th in 2001 and 2003, and we started Let's Run in 2000. But Weldon was running pretty well, got his name as the 10 guys to watch at the Olympic Marathon Trials in 2000. No shoe sponsor because he sucked in college. And Mike McManus, who's now with Hoka, was used to be with Adidas. He said, you know what? I think you're worth about 13,000. And we're just like, that's not worth running for, dude. We'll just do our own thing. And at the time, it really infuriated me that it was all about your college credentials. So much of it's based on your college credentials. I'm like, Weldon's better than all these guys that have these deals. And there weren't nearly as many deals then as there are now. But I get it now. And I was explaining this to Alex when I was editing his article. Like, what is Eric Holt's best case scenario? Like, maybe he gets 3rd and other guys are off their game. And maybe I guess Johnny Gore did sneak in a world championship final. But
it's making the team. That's his best scenario, Robert. And nothing beyond that, nothing.
Well, don't say it so meanly. But yeah, so
no, I mean, like Eric, a world. He's not going to be contending for a world's medal or anything, but making the team is possible, and that's his best case scenario.
Yeah,
Eric Holt's best scenario is saying Eric Holt Olympian.
Yes, yeah.
That's what he'll do.
That's not off the table after this year.
Something Chris Zielinski can't say. Donovan Brazier's not an Olympian, is it correct?
That's correct.
I mean,
no, you should definitely keep going at least for 2 more years in the World's years. But at some point, you got to just, whatever. By the way, Cravon Charleston, I did accurately describe him as 6th in the prelims at ACCs. But for those of you that didn't read Jonathan Gault's article, this is why you need to come. Not only listen to the podcast, you have to go to the website every day and read the articles, because, John, it was a great article. You were comparing him to Cinderella. I didn't really like how you said, he's not a Cinderella because he ran good races this year. I would have still said he's a Cinderella this year, but he did win the ACC 100 meters as a freshman. So.
100 and 200.
Yeah. This guy he was like a hot chick that had a medical condition and put on 100 pounds. and then has now lost it back, is now smoking and ready to go.
Robert always with the eloquent analogies, but no, Alan Johnson, who knows talent, Olympic champion in the hurdles, he said when he saw that in 2017, what he did at ACCs, like, yeah, this guy has the talent to, sky's the limit, essentially.
Alan, my cousin, long lost cousin, he identifies talent like I do. If you win a NCAA title or if you win an ACC title as a freshman, we both realize, wow, that person's pretty good. So, John, people want to know, do they kick you out of Hayward Field, or are you sitting there in an empty stadium? And please give us an update on the crowd. How was the crowd today?
Okay, so right now I am the only people in the stands right now. Actually, there's 2 people just taking a selfie, but it's the people cleaning up the trash from the stands. But yeah, it's kind of quiet. It's a cool view. The sun's setting here, so I'm allowed to be here. It's not a problem. Like, this credential gets me anywhere in the stands. So yeah, it's fun. The crowd, I thought was good. The official, okay, so USATF's official numbers, which I think are inflated, they are claiming 8,965 ticketed spectators. And they're saying that doesn't include accredited personnel or coaches or anything. It did not look that many to me, but both parts of the home straight, the upper section and the lower section, looked pretty full. There were a decent amount of seats full on the first turn. I mean, the back straight, they've got the whole upper section of the back straight has been topped off, the whole meet. But I thought the crowd, the energy was pretty good. And the amount of fans, like, I tweeted a picture of the stands last night when they said there was only about 5,000. And people are crapping on it and saying, this is terrible, the sport's never going to grow. And I'm just thinking to myself, you think any other city is going to draw that many more fans? Like, please list me the cities that would draw more track fans than what we got tonight in Eugene, and also have a stadium that is willing to host this meet and an LOC that's going to bid for it. I'm sorry, it's not a long list. I think people have been giving Eugene a bad rap. The crowd was pretty decent. It's much better than USA's last year. I'd say there might have been twice as many people in the stadium tonight than there were for any days of USA's last year.
Boise, Idaho had NCAs one time, John. They had great crowds. I think LA, you could get more crowds. And Mount Sac. I don't know. At one point, John, looking at the backstretch today, I was like, wow, is Eugene becoming like Des Moines? And I didn't mean that in a complimentary way. But
I think Des Moines could get around the same as what this meet got. But people saying, oh, LA. Oh, Robert, I'm not sure about LA. Did you see the LA meets this year? I guess UCLA was decent, but the on-meets at the 2 meets at Mount Sac barely drew anyone. Maybe that's because it's not really in LA, and one of them was on Friday or Thursday night or something.
It's funny. Right, there's a thread on attendance. People were like, put it in Indy, put it in Des Moines. I'm like, do you have any sense of history? We've had the meets there before. I just think they should rotate it. And they've never done a Des Moines. The Olympic trials will draw a crowd, period. Doesn't matter where it is. We went to New Orleans, when we were in high school, and it was packed. So it was an event. Now, with streaming and stuff, people don't go to as much stuff as they should. And I thought it was ironic that Sha'Carri Richardson's telling people not to watch the USATF.TV broadcast. And I'm like, this meet, it must be on TV. I'm like, well, you're kind of proving the point. If people won't even pay to watch it for $8 in a stream, then it proves that it probably shouldn't be on TV in the first place.
That's not why Sha'Carri's asking them not to run it. I think she wants a piece of the pie. She's basically saying, I'm running this meet. It's being streamed. I'm not getting any of this revenue for it being streamed. I mean, she gets prize money for winning the race, but the problem is I just don't think there's not that much revenue in it. Like, that would be my guess. She hasn't actually explained why she doesn't want people watching USATF.TV, but if that's the reason, I just think of like, that's not that big a pie to be getting a slice from. I agree with you as well, Robert. Des Moines, people would go to the Olympic trials in Des Moines. It's the Olympic trials. That means something in our sport. It means something outside of running. That's like one of the few things that people actually do care about. It'll be in the Midwest. It's an area that hasn't hosted the Olympic trials in how long? Like forever. So I do think people would go if it was in Des Moines. I wouldn't have any issue with that.
Olympic trials, as Robert said, fell out anywhere. But let's keep this show going. Sha'Carri Richardson, you mentioned her. Well, the only way to watch her was on USATF TV. And I was actually going to praise USATF TV. I swear to God, before the Sha'Carri thing yesterday, you can watch any race. Well, I don't know about the TV races, but the other races, like from the first day, I could watch any of them on demand at 1.5 speed. I think I actually mentioned that. It was very easy to get caught up on the race. I just clicked on it, boom. I don't know what people expect, but Sha'Carri ran.
The stuttering has been terrible. Everyone's complaining about it. So it's great that you can watch it on demand because it's hard to watch it live.
Okay, that's a separate issue. Sha'Carri Richardson, 21:61 today in round 1 of the 200. I mean, this is just stunning. That's the number 4 time ever.
Wind dated. 2.6 win, but it was.
Oh, it was wind dated? I was about to say, wait, that's an American record. Why wouldn't she get the American record? Okay, it was wind dated, but still pretty sick, man.
Well, it's phenomenal. She won the 100 yesterday. She ran 2 rounds of the 100 yesterday. She comes back, rips that thing. Tomorrow, the semis and the final are on the same day. So my guess is she probably won't better that time. But, I mean, she's never broken 22 seconds. This is like, you're a contender at the 200 now, too. It was a great race for Sha'Carri.
So that was crazy. But we have not mentioned, well, I'll get other stuff out of the way, and I think we can end with Sydney. Maybe we do picks for tomorrow's races real quickly, but the show's gone on quite a bit. I don't know if they even talked about this on the TV, but I'm so focused on the distance stuff during. They must have, right? But in the men's pole vault, Sam Kendricks, he was like the standard bearer in this event, and Casey Lightfoot, the new American record holder, neither one made the team. Chris Nelson gets the win. Zach McCorder and Zach Bradford are your team. I mean, that was kind of a shocking result. Just shows how good Mondo is, man. The guy never screws up. I mean, we've if you go back to like Dan and Dave screwing up with the pole vault, it's easy to screw up the pole vault. But I think for the public at large, the biggest race tonight, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, 48.74. Just misses Sandra Richards-Ross's American record of 48.70. Beats Britton Wilson. I said it would happen, didn't I? I think I did in last night's show.
I did too.
I said she'll win by over a second. She won by 1.05 seconds. And credit to Letha Diggs, last year's champion, who wasn't running that great this year at NCAA level, or maybe we're just comparing her to Britton Wilson, but she actually ran a PB, 49.93 to get third, make the team. So, a member of the unbelievable Diggs family. So good run for her. But Sydney, there's just such expectations for her, John. I'm going to try to pull up this picture, but she crossed the line and she looks at the clock. Maybe she wanted the record. I'm not sure exactly what she wanted, but she sort of kind of shook her head, kind of gave a little, looked like there was a little disappointment at first. And then people congratulated her and she sounded happy, but I think she wanted a little bit faster time, which is crazy.
She said she wanted sub 49, which she got. I think maybe coming that close to the record, you're always going to be like, a little frustration, but no, she was amazing. She did what I expected her to do, which is run her best race of the season. I was like, how do you do this year after year? You always perform your best at the major championships. And she was just like, well, Bobby Kersey's a championship coach. I'm like, well, how does he prepare you for it? She's like, well, just follow what he says in practice. Like, she wasn't really elaborating on how they peak or what go into it, but the fact is she ran amazing. This is kind of the potential that people started to see in her in this event. Wouldn't commit to which event she was running at the World Championships, but if you had to get, I would have to think she's going to run the 400 at Worlds, right? You go this deep into the season, you run it at USA's. She's now the world leader. Do you guys think there's any chance she runs the 400 hurdles?
Yes.
Oh, weird. No, that's weird. I completely forgot about that as being a possibility. I thought for sure she's all in the 400 by now. That seems to make the most sense for me.
Robert, you think she could do the hurdles?
Yes. She's going to win that easily. Easier than the 400.
Well, obviously, but she's already done that multiple times.
This time doesn't shock me. she's put 47.7. I said she should be a 48.7 to 48.5 woman, which is what Shani Miller-Weibo is. Now, Weibo's out with Weibo actually is competing already back. She gave birth like 3 months ago.
Heptathlon, 2.5
So-
months after giving birth. That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
But that was just for kicks, just to kind of do a heptathlon, or what?
She had said last year that she did want to do the heptathlon at some point, maybe start focusing on it. But I think it was probably just for kicks this meet, given she's not back to her regular self yet.
Look, I need Shani Miller-Weibo to come back to the 400. It wasn't a marquee event, but if Sydney goes to it, goes to the double. We need like a Darth Vader for the event to crush NBC. I mean, NBC tried to anoint Noah Lyles as the 100 and 200 champion in 2021. That didn't work so well. The next Usain Bolt, Sydney is pretty damn good, but
you want a Darth Vader, Robert? What about Selwa Nasser coming back from a whereabouts suspension? Has run 48.14 in the past. That would be your Darth Vader for her to overcome if she returns to form.
All right, John. Anyone? We can preview real quickly tomorrow's races, but women's 1500. I don't know, any reaction from the athletes or anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, talking to Athing Mu is interesting. She said she's definitely running the 800 at Worlds, and TBD whether she'll double or not. But I mean, Krissy has believed in her in this event. I think I'm taking the L in this one. I said you need to be a unicorn to be able to run low 4 minutes in the 1500 to be as competitive as she has been. I didn't think she had any chance of making the team. And getting second, Bobby Krissy said before the race she'd go out and win there. She thought she could win. She almost did. I was so impressed by her. And she's a freak talent in the history of our sport. You're not supposed to be able to run 49 seconds in the 400 and be competitive on the international level in a 1500, which is what she is. The only person who's done that is Caster Semenya, and Semenya was XY male levels of testosterone. Athing Mu's an absolute freak. She's incredible at running. She does deserve so much props for what she did today. Well, then we can't hear you.
Definitely props to Athing Mu. Nikki Hiltz deserves credit for winning. I think until now, Nikki was most known, well, I don't know, outside of the running world, right, for their identity, being transgender, non-binary. Now she's a USATF Outdoor National Champion. Excuse me, Nikki is a national champion. It's like to beat. I thought she might win coming in. I'm trying to think who I picked. No, I think I picked Sinclair Johnson. But great run to hold off Athing Mu.
Yeah, no, their kick was on point. It's interesting because back in 2019, Hiltz made the team, made the World Championship final, and then had a couple down years. And you start to think, is this a person who, that was just the year that everything broke right for them? Or can they improve? And for a couple of years, I thought, okay, that was the best we'll ever seen of Nikki Hiltz. No, they go to Flagstaff, start training with Mike Smith, and have had an absolute career year. National champion, really incredible kick. And yeah, I thought it was cool. It was a big win for them. And they said they saw a trans flag in the stands beforehand. They were getting pretty emotional about like wanting to win it. And they knew there was someone out there from their community who was watching them. So, impressive stuff for Hiltz, deserving champion. And, beat some good women. There are some, beat Athing Mu. I mean, outkicked the Olympic 800 meter champion. That's pretty hard to do. And Corey McGee, Sinclair Johnson, Heather McLean. There's some good women in this field, and they beat all of them.
Seth Lewis is pointing out first national championship by Lululemon. And I sort of viewed this Lululemon thing as more they were sponsoring. Nikki's a good runner, but I felt like Lulu was going more for the social media clout, Nikkie's popularity elsewhere, but they now have a national champion, which is good for them. All right, tomorrow it's the final day, which means all finals. I mean, we have some semis and the hurdles. Cordell Cinch, people are getting on that hype train. That'll be Tinch, excuse me. Cordell Tinch. People are getting ready for that thing. Grand Hallway. I mean, that's going to be a great one. But distance running wise, we have the 5,000s and the 800s. I think the 5,000 we were hyping up. We've been hyping up for a long time here. And what am I looking at? Who are they? Oh. Well, I'm trying to make sure I'm getting all the guys here. Well, one, we now have Sean McGorty. I was not counting him as a good guy. I was counting the good guys as essentially Abdihamid Nur, Joe Klecker, Grant Fisher, Woody Kincaid, Paul Chalimo. But now we have Cooper Tier and Sean McGorty.
Don't sleep on Morgan Beadlescombe either.
I'm sleeping on him, John. Sorry.
He's fresh. A lot of these guys are doubling back from a tough 10K. But making picks in this event, I can't pick against Woody winning at this point. I know in my predictions, I had Fisher winning the 10K. Sorry, I had Kincaid winning the 10K and Fisher winning the 5, but I'm sorry. Like, Grant Fisher got pantsed on the last lap of the 5K. I got to go with Woody Kincaid to win it. I feel pretty good about Abdihamid Nur. He trains with Woody Kincaid. He made the team last year. He's fresh. I think I'm putting Nur on the team. And can Fisher get that third spot? Or is Cooper Tier? Chalimo? You never count out Chalimo? Man, it's really hard to pick that third thing. I think I'm going to go with Fisher. But I don't know, man. It's really hard.
I mean, Klecker obviously is an option. I mean, this is going to be a good one. McGorty beat Fisher in the 10K. Wow, if Grant Fisher does not make the World's team, my God.
After one of the greatest years in the history of U.S. distance running. What about Cooper Tier? Robert, what chance do you give Cooper Tier of making the 5K team? Sounds like he's having some audio issues. Well,
not good. Not good. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
I've switched computers. I mean, it's been. I normally back my boy Yared, but it's been kind of a disaster for him. Not a total disaster because at least Cranny was magnificent in the women's 10. But I mean, I'm thinking Nur's been working on his speed, although he's not as fast as Tier. Yeah, I hope Tier makes it to be a cool story, but I don't think it's going to happen. I hope Fisher makes it. I don't think it's going to happen. Kincaid definitely for the win. I'd like to see Chalimo make it. And then I get like 4 or 5 guys I want to make. That's what makes this race great. Can I say 2 other things? Y'all were talking about Hiltz before I had these audio problems. I'll admit it. Like, I'm definitely farther to the right, politically speaking, than she is. But I thought a couple of years ago, and maybe the shoe sponsor thought this too, I thought maybe she was more into like her sexual identity and her gender identity.
Them.
Hiltz was more into, you know what, God. I try to be nice and give her a compliment. I give them a compliment.
Yeah.
That I should go off here on a rant about how I wish everybody was they. Then it'd be easier. There should be no he or she. What does your gender have to do with anything? It should just be it. But I was raised differently anyways. But I thought Hiltz was perhaps more into like gender identity, sexual identity than running. And Hiltz just won the U.S. title. Has really she's been running. They's been running so good all damn year. Like, not a surprise. I picked her on the team. God, it's impossible.
You're trying, Robert. You're trying.
And the other thing that I was going to say was for Mo, like we put Sinclair on the team earlier without you, John. We thought for sure she wasn't doing the 8. But if you look at it, there's no overlap at Worlds. So it's like 18, 20, and 21. But the difference is the 1500 is first. So,
I think it's very little chance she runs it if that's the case. I mean, Keely Hodgkinson, I know she just got beat by Mary Murrah, but I think Mo's going to remember how close it was last year. She doesn't like losing 800s. I don't think she would take the risk of having the 1500 tire her out. I bet she does the 800 only.
I don't really think she'd be competitive in the world stage in the 15, but I think she can make the final after today.
But
And
the problem is the way the 1500 is run these days. I mean, actually, Sagai, who knows if Sagai will be in it because Sagai just won the 10K, but there are women who like to hammer it. And, is she going to be beating Safan Hassan or Faith Kipyegon or Sagai or all of these sub-4 Ethiopians? I don't think so. I know we discounted her ahead of this meet, but I don't think it makes sense for her to do it with the 800 being second. I think it would be cool. It would be fun to see what happens, but I don't think she will.
Okay, back to the 5,000, men's 5,000. Rose Runner has put here is the fastest 1500 PB, but does that matter? What time of day is this race? What is the weather going to be like? What am I thinking about? I'm saying Ingebrigtsen's unbeatable in championship 5,000s because it turns into a 1500. So why wouldn't Tyr be good the more I think about it? I wasn't impressed when Tyr was like celebrating winning like a 13:10 or 13:13 race or whatever it was. But how hot is it going to be? When is this race going to be?
6:50 local time, 75 degrees and sunny.
So that's not terrible. I'm putting it higher than 10%. He might actually.
He makes the team or wins it.
Oh.
I'm not putting him above 20%. I don't think he's making the team.
Who's got better odds, Tyr or Fisher?
Robert, come on. Fisher. It's not even close.
What do you mean, come on? Grant Fisher just got outkicked by Sean McGordy in a 10K. I mean, I don't think it's an outrageous question.
Well,
who has a better kick? Tyr or Grant Fisher?
Okay, you think it's 50-50? I'll bet up to any much money as you want. $500 that Fisher beats him.
I just don't think it's an outrageous question.
Anybody in the chat, we can get this done. If you want to take me up the bet, I will take Fisher over. I want even money. Fisher over Tyr. Email me, weejo@letsrun.com. But we also have the 800 finals. We don't need to break all this stuff down, guys.
Well, wait. One thing I do want to say.
Night.
Nia Akins, who wrote in the quick takes yesterday that they think Nia Akins can win the U.S. title? I don't think it's an outrageous take, but can you defend that take, Weldon?
Can I defend it? She's looked better than everyone else in both rounds. I think she's going to win.
All right, we got Robert Weldon on the record. A Heps legend, Nia Akins, will be your 2023 USA 800-meter champion. What about, all right, Will Sumner, who just turned pro with Adidas? Will he be on the team?
I don't know if you were on the podcast yesterday, John, but Weldon and I both agreed. We want Sumner to go out and try to be like a Rhodesia and just go to the front no matter what. Now the problem
gray
is
zone, the gray zone, baby.
Yes, Johnny Gray. He says he does better. Like he does better when he's in the front. If he tries to run mid-pack, he's not making this team. Now the problem is Jewett likes to lead too, but just go up there, go for it, and see what happens.
Yeah, just follow the same game plan. Do exactly what you did at the NCAA final, and you'll win the race. I'm not sure if they'll let him do it. I'm picking Murphy to win that. I still feel great about Murphy. Jewett's looked pretty impressive to me, and I picked Isaiah Harris before the meet, but he kind of only snuck into the final. I think I would go probably Murphy, Jewett, and Hopple to make the team.
Snuck into the final? No. This was clear coming in. I didn't have a lot of faith in Sumner. Sumner hasn't looked great to me. And I think the other guys look good. I mean, I had Hopple and Murphy definitely on the team if they were healthy, and I think they're both healthy. They've looked great to me. And then I was debating between Jewett and Harris, who have both made teams before. And I think I looked up their head-to-head. Someone read the 800 preview. But there was a reason why I picked Jewett, and I'm picking Jewett again. Like, I think he's going to make it.
Yeah, so we have the same team.
Yeah.
That's my team, by the way, as well. And we said Sumner should go out in a blaze of glory. We said he likes to lead, but the one thing at NCAAs when he led that race, right, it was 53 seconds. I think he went out faster in the first round here, right? I can look that up real quickly, and he struggled. Like he wasn't in the lead, but has he ever gone out in 51 seconds ever?
I think
that's going to be the problem.
think he told me his fastest 800 was like in high school. But no, he went out faster actually than NCAA indoors, and he was in the back of the pack. But he just never moved up. So he's
right,
a
guys.
real wild card for me, but I don't think it's going to happen.
That's 90 minutes.
He went out 52-45. Sorry, he went out 52-45 in the first round, and he's behind people. So it's just not natural for him to go out in 50 or 51 and see what happens. I still want to see him do it. I don't think he makes the team. All in the game's asking, should he done another year in college? No, we sort of agreed with Drew Hunter. If you get the money, you take it. That's how it works these days. I guess ultimately, if he performs well, one more year in college, he could perform that much better. But is there any guarantee that helps him perform that much better? I don't think so. So Adidas loves to throw monies at these young kids. Take it.
His stock is incredibly high right now. It might be a lot lower if he bombs the final. And track and field, there's not that much money in the sport. If you can get a big, nice deal for a number of years, you take it. So I don't begrudge him that at all.
All right. Thank you, everyone who listened. Right now, hit subscribe, hit like. If you want this as a podcast, you got to be a Supporters Club member. Go to letsrun.com/subscribe. Use code CLUB25 to save 25%. You can join. Just if you want to hear for the Worlds, join now. You'll get the Worlds. Worlds is in a month. You can join for 2 months. Buy one pair of shoes. You'll still come out ahead. You'll save $30 on your shoes. Pay us 15% off. That's $15. I'm doing the math. You'll pay us 15 and you'll save 30 on shoes. That's how you do it right there, people. All right, John, get some sleep. Robert, talk to you guys